Hello and welcome to episode 102 of Daryl Show Your Work. All right, so I'm going to be taking a slight step back here in this video and going to be reviewing a subject matter that I only slightly touched on in a previous video. So if those who have watched some of my previous videos, if we think back to where I showed how to navigate around user access control and also exploiting token impersonation, there was an attack vector that I targeted specifically dealing with something called a Rejetto HTTP file server. And I want to specifically zero in on that today, since I only kind of breezed through it in those previous videos and didn't explain too much what that was and why I was targeting it. All right, so before I do that, I'm going to preface this video of my usual disclaimer anytime that I do any sort of offensive security or ethical hacking, and saying that this is for ethical research and educational purposes. Any sort of malicious actions that may directly or indirectly come from someone watching my video, I do not take responsibility for, nor do I condone. Okay, so just to give a high level overview on exactly what an HTTP files server is, so that's not to be mistaken for a web server. So HFS is designed to host and share documents for download and not necessarily to host web applications. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be exploiting this type of server using a remote command execution attack. All right, and then with the specific variation or version of the the HFS that I'm going to be targeting is called Rejetto. And what Rejetto is a popular and free open source HTTP file server that can be both set up on Windows and Linux, but is vulnerable to the remote command execution attack that I'm going to be performing due to a poor regex in the file parser lib.pas. All right, so that's the attack vector that I'm going to be attacking. All right, so to start off, I've already got our target host here, so I won't be running the nmap to find that. I already have that set for myself. All right, so to start off, let me copy that, and I'm gonna move this little camera bubble over here. There you go. All right. All right, and I'm gonna jump right into Metasploit here. All right, so I'm start up the postgresql server, not server, excuse me, database. All right, and then combine that with the step to start up the msfconsole, which is going to throw us into the Metasploit framework. All right. Okay, so as usual, I'm gonna set up a workspace here, and I'm gonna say workspace dash A, and I'm gonna call this workspace HFS. All right, since we're doing that, since we're targeting an HTTP file server. All right, so then I also want to set our target host as a global parameter here, so that I don't have to keep setting that within different modules here within the framework. Don't know why that popped up. All right. Okay. All right, and then so instead of running that nmap scan outside of the Metasploit, I'm going to run it within Metasploit. And what I'm going to be looking for here is to see if port 80 is indeed open. All right, and to see if it's running that Regetto HFS server that I'm looking to target. So I'm gonna do a db nmap, and then let's do a send scan, and then a service scan. I'm gonna do an operating scan as well, operating system scan as well. All right, so we gotta give it our target IP address. And let's set that run. It may take a while just to warn you. So get some popcorn, fast forward, whatever you feel inclined to do here while it runs. All right. So it looks like the results have returned. Let's scroll up a little bit. Let's see what we got going on. All right. So we can see that port 80 is indeed open and it's running the HTTP file server. And another thing I neglected to mention is that we specifically want to look for version 2.3 of Rejetto as well, because that's going to be important as far as targeting this specific version of HTTP, the HTTP file server. All right, then we can see that's also running the operating system, Microsoft Server 2008. Well, it looks like either revision 2 or 2012. All right, so the next thing we want to do is let's verify that that's indeed there. So I'm gonna go to my browser here, and I'm gonna paste that there. Okay, so we can see here that when I entered my target host here, that we're inside what appears to be the server. And if we look down here, we can see HTTP file server 2.3, but no mention of it being a Rejetto a file server. So I'm gonna click on it and let's see what happens. So while it looked like I got a denial, if we see here, it says www.rejetto.com slash hfs. Okay, so that gives you the information that I want, even though I was denied further entry into the server. At least it let me know that this is indeed a Rejetto server, so it's fair to say that I can proceed to do some further numeration and potentially enter in to the system. All right. So let's look for an exploit that specifically targets Rejetto. So I'm gonna say search type. All right, and we want an exploit module. All right, and then I'm gonna say name, and we want anything with the name Rejetto in it. All right, so we got one here, and it says it's the Rejetto HTTP file server remote command execution. All right, so that's exactly what I want. So I'm gonna say use 0. All right, so let's show options. I don't believe, since I set that the remote host as a global parameter, I don't believe there's anything else I need to set up, but it's always a good idea to check. So I'm say show options, see if there's anything else here to configure. Nope, doesn't look like it. Everything appears to be good to go. All right. So, and I should have mentioned in this, I'm gonna do a capture the flag in this as well. Okay. So I'm gonna um I'm gonna attempt to capture a flag once I get in here. All right. So let's exploit that. See what happens. All right. Looks like we have a interpreter session. Open it up. All right. Now let's do a sysinfo here. And let's check our what session type we're running. All right, so it looks like it's running a 64 bit version of Windows Server 2012 revision 2, but I'm running a 32-bit vision, excuse me, 32-bit version of Interpreter. So it's always if I wanted to migrate my session to a 64-bit um, version of my interpreter to be lock in step with the version of the operating system that's running here, I can migrate to a 64-bit process. All right. So in order to do that, I'm gonna say pgrep and let's say lsas because that's usually running, and it's a 64-bit 64-bit process. All right, so the process ID is 500, so I'm gonna say migrate 500. All right, now let's just check sysinfo again. All right, and this should give me the ability to do a bit more here. Sysinfo. All right, so we have a 64-bit session within the 64-bit version of Windows Server 2012. All right, now let's dive in and let's look for that flag. All right, so I'm gonna say shell. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to root here, to the root of the shell drive. All right, and let's see what's in the local directory here. All right, so we see our flag right here. So I'm going to just say type flag.txt, and voila. So there's our flag. All right, so that pretty much brings me to the end of the video here. I just wanted to specifically zero in on on the Rejetto HTTP files server, exactly what the difference between an HTTP file server is between an HTTP web server, and then also specifically with Rejetto and why it is what it is about Rejetto that makes it vulnerable, and why it tends to be an attack vector when in use. So this was just an attack, on it of its own. But as you saw, when I used this attack in those other videos, when the main primary target in those videos was to circumvent the user access control or to impersonate specific elevated user tokens, that this gave me this was a method in which I was able to to exploit to then conduct those other higher level exploitations. All right, so please like, subscribe, and share. Most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.